welcome back to my channel. My name is Michelle and today I'm going to be doing a recommendations video based on some popular books. So I've done a video like this before in the past where I've like, if you like this book, you like this book. But this one is going to be a little bit different. So I have a list of like really popular 25 books that I feel like are like pretty popular, both like currently and just like popular choices for people to be like, oh, that's one of my favorite books. And they're all books that I enjoyed, so like you won't find Where the Crawdads Sing, because I tried to read that book and I thought it was like so incredibly boring, and I truly don't understand what people see in it. Like a lot of times I can read a book and even if I don't love it, I can be like, oh, I could see why someone would love this. I read half of that book and maybe like in the back half, that's when things get interesting, but I was bored out of my little noggin, and so no, I shan't be seeing the movie, but I do like the song Carolina by Taylor Swift. Anyway, so what I'm going to do is I have a spreadsheet here with 25 different titles, and then I have something that will pick 2 random titles, and then based on those 2 random titles I'm going to recommend something. So if you like both of those books, my recommendation for a third book. I think book recommendations work best this way. I don't believe in like generic recommendations most of the time. There are very few books I think I will recommend like generically without having a sense of like your reading tastes, and it's not just like one book. If you really love like Evelyn Hugo, I don't know where to go from there, because like you could like a lot of different aspects of Evelyn Hugo, and so I feel like I need like a triangulation, you know, like I need at least 2 books to get a sense of your like book vibe. So I'm going to use this to get a sense of your book vibe, and then I'm going to recommend a book based on that vibe. Our first matchup is The Vanishing Half and This Is How You Lose the Time War. One, I think you really like well-written stories. I think both The Vanishing Half and This Is How We Lose the Time War, or This Is How You Lose the Time War, are really like beautifully told stories. They're like really eloquent, and also something that plays a little bit with plot structure. I'm actually going to recommend another Britt Bennett book. I liked this one even more than The Vanishing Half, but this is her debut novel, The Mothers. The Mothers follows a bunch of people who grew up in this like Southern California beach town, and so it's narrated by like, we go from a bunch of different perspectives, and one of the sections that we get narrated by is by the church mothers, and it's in this like first person plural that I've never seen used before, which is just gorgeous, and I like really love the exploration of this town and these people and kind of how they go through things. I don't want to give away too much because I think it's really a story you need to experience. It's very like character focused, which I also think This Is How You Lose the Time War and The Vanishing Half have in common, but if you haven't read The Mothers and you love both these books, I think you would enjoy it. Okay, this one is The Maid by Nita Prowse and Outlander by Diane Garibaldi. Garibaldi? I think I just like make up how to say her last name every time. I don't know how to say it. It starts with a G, and then I just like add some syllables afterwards. I think this gives me like very like lovable character vibes. Like you love like your character girl. You like really cling on to a character and you really love them. Because like Jamie in Outlander is frankly lovable, and the maid, I don't remember what the main character's name, but she's like really sweet and lovable. I think my recommendation for this one is kind of a weird one, but I think it's sweet. It has a little bit of the romance of Outlander, but I think it's like heartwarming like The Maid, and that's House on the Australian Sea by TJ Klune, which is about this house where there's an orphanage, or not an orphanage. It's about this house where this like foster dad is essentially caring for all these magical children who are like have been deemed like particularly dangerous, and it's about this like guy who goes out to like check to make sure all of his paperwork's up to date, and it's like very sweet, very very lovable, but there's also like a sweet little romance. So I think you'd like that. Our next mashup is The Pride and Prejudice and A Little Life. This book, like, you, one, have taste. You are like a fancy lady, and you're not going to be out here reading pop fiction very often. I mean, just a little bit. Like, if you haven't read a Emily Henry novel, like, get yourself one. I think you'll enjoy it. I think you also like a little bit of angst, a little bit of tension. There's a little bit of pretension in your reading taste, which, like, I love that for you. My recommendation for you is 7 Days in June by Tia Williams. This has like a little bit, it's a romance, but I think it's like a little bit more of a highbrow romance because you're a highbrow lady or dude. This book is much happier than A Little Life, but it does have like some darkness, some darker tones. Did it make me cry? Absolutely it did. So I'm going to recommend you 7 Days in June by Tia Williams. I have a perfect recommendation for this one, like right off the bat. This is How You Lose the Time War and Call Me By Your Name. I read Call Me By Your Name really recently, and the writing is just stunning, and I think the similar thing about This Is How We Lose the Time War, like the writing is just like gorgeous and stunning. So my recommendation for you is another book in which I thought the writing was like truly stunning, and that's Bluets by Maggie Nelson. This is a prose poetry piece, which is these like little pieces of prose kind of all around the color blue, but it's also musings about grief over losing your relationship. And it is gorgeous, and I think as a gorgeous writing lover, which clearly that's what you are, you will really like this. Okay, the next one we have is The Vanishing Half and the People We Meet on Vacation. Okay, my recommendation for this, which, like, honestly, if you've read these two, I bet you've read this one as well. But if you haven't read the Brown Sisters trilogy by Talia Hibbert, I think you really should. For me, the overlap between The Vanishing Half and The People We Meet on Vacation this kind of pulls things from both. So The Vanishing Half obviously is like a conversation around race, but it's also a conversation around like family and sister dynamics, which like this follows three sisters. We love that. People We Meet on Vacation has that like lighthearted rom-com cover. So I think this could be the overlap for you. I think it has like the sweet rom-com vibes of The People We Meet on Vacation with some of the like conversations around The Vanishing Half. So it's going to have People We Meet on Vacation tone. For sure. It's definitely closer to that one than The Vanishing Half. But I think it'll be a goodie. I think you'll like it. Sorry, these are two of my favorites. I'm very excited about this. This is Evelyn Hugo and Outlander. Obviously, you're an epic romance girl. You are an epic romance girl. You want a romance that like spans the depths of time. My first instinct of recommendation is another one of my favorites that gives me like, for sure, like Outlander vibes. But I think it also gives Evelyn Hugo vibes, and that's The Discovery of Witches by Deborah Harkness. But this is magic, so I don't know, you might not be a magic girl, because Outlander has like a tiny bit of magic, and Evelyn Hugo doesn't have any at all. Evelyn Hugo is obviously realistic fiction, but if you're okay with magic, I think you will love the Discovery of Witches trilogy. It is one of my favorite series of all times. It is like adult Twilight, but like in the best way. It reminds me a lot of Outlander because it's delicious and delightful. But it follows Diana and Matthew. Diana's a witch, Matthew is a vampire. It's gorgeous. It's gorgeous. It's written by a historian. So they like are at Oxford. They're like smart little people. It's gorgeous. I think you would love it. The Spanish Love Deception and Song of Achilles. This is like a classic book top combo. Spanish, but I think it's kind of like an odd couple combo because the Spanish Love Deception is kind of like an enemies to lovers. It's very like pop bubblegum rom-com, and then Song of Achilles is women's prize winning, a little bit angsty book about the song that it is an Iliad retelling essentially. I think The Simple Wild by K.A. Tucker would be like a great recommendation for you. The Simple Wild has that like angst of like Song of Achilles, but it is like essentially like a pop piece. A pop romance piece, you know? It's about this girl who moves or goes to visit her dad who lives in like rural Alaska, and is like a pilot. And she's like estranged from him, but she goes to visit him, and obviously romance ensues. It's cute, it's fun, it made me bawl my little eyeballs out. Which, if you read Song of Achilles, I assume that's something that you're into. I assume you like bawling your eyeballs out. Maybe you don't. And in that case, don't read this. But I think you probably do. Another Song of Achilles pair up, we've got The Silent Patient in Song of Achilles. So this gives me, Silent Patient is known for its like twist. I think a lot of people love The Silent Patient for its twist. And Song of Achilles is for the romance, obviously the angst. There's no twist. We know what's going to happen in this book. I actually think you might like Alex Micheletti new book, The Maidens, because The Maidens does take some of that like Greek mythology and mix it with Alex Micheletti's like twisty thriller writing style. I think you really enjoy that. You might also like, that book reminds me like pretty heavily of The Secret History by by Donna Tartt. That one's like a chunky one, and it is like one of the most pretentious books I've ever read. But similarly, we have like kind of like a mystery sort of element along with like very pretentious Greek. Call Me By Your Name and Throne of Glass. I don't know what the overlap is here, okay guys? I love both of these books so much. Both of these books are like 5-star favorites of mine, but the overlap is unclear to me. I guess I would assume that you have like a really strong sense of like setting being like something that is like clearly very important to you, because I think both Throne of Glass and Call Me By Your Name do setting really beautifully. Call Me By Your Name being like an Italian summer, and Throne of Glass being obviously the like Ardelayne Terracin, this like magical world that Sarah J Maas made. So my recommendation for you is going to be An Ember in the Ashes by Sabaa Tahir, which I think is like an absolutely gorgeous, underrated YA fantasy story that takes place in, I believe, like the Middle East, like a fantasy version of the Middle East. It is gorgeous. I love it so much. I don't want to tell you too much about the plot because the plot changes a lot, just like it does in most fantasy books. But I think the first book is about this girl who is attempting she's from like this lower class group in society, and her brother has just been taken by like the army essentially, and so she is now spying at the like military academy to figure out how to get him back, sort of. That's like the basic premise, but it is gorgeous. Saboteur 1 writes like gorgeously complex characters, which I think also both these books have in common, where most of the characters are really gray. Like we're really sitting in like complex characters, and even the villains have like such complex rationale and you really understand them. Also, I think the setting is like incredibly beautifully written. Like the magic is really interesting, and just like the setting itself is really gorgeous. So I think if you loved Call Me By Your Name and Throne of Glass, you would love Saboteurs and Ever in the Ashes. My next recommendation is Evelyn Hugo in A Little Life. These books make me think that you like to hurt. I love both of these books. They're like one sprawling narratives that just like go through things, and also both of these books made me weep, and there's like very few books that I like cry all the time while I'm reading, but most of the time when I think back over books, I don't cry. I'm like getting emotional thinking about it. But A Little Life, if I talk about A Little Life and like try to talk about the plot, it does make me emotional. Similar thing with Evelyn Hugo. There's a couple parts where I will talk about with Evelyn Hugo and I will still cry. Like the emotional gut punch that both these had are severe. But also they have like sprawling narratives. And so I think my recommendation for this is The Great Believers by Rebecca Mackay. This is often recommended as like a Little Life light. This follows a group of gay men during the AIDS epidemic in Chicago, as well as a woman in like modernish times, early 2000s, in Paris looking for her daughter. It's gorgeous. It's sprawling. It also made me cry. So I think if you love Evelyn Hugo and A Little Life, you'll love The Great Believers by Rebecca Mackay. This one is just like heartwarming to the max. This is The Midnight Library and the People We Meet on Vacation, and The Midnight Library by Matt Haig, and The People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry. This book gives me the warm and fuzzies. You love the warm and fuzzies, and you also, I think there's just like a sense of like wanderlust in both of these books, of people who are very uncomfortable with being like told to like stay still. Like they want to go explore, they want to have adventures. Honestly, I already recommended this, but I think the Brown Sisters trilogy would kind of hit the mark on this. I think you'd really enjoy that, but I also am going to give you another one. I think you would also love I'll Give You the Sun by Jandy Nelson. This is a YA book, but I don't read a ton of YA, but this book is like truly stunning. It's like beautifully written. It is a really interesting story. It follows this set of twins who are like used to be incredibly close but now like are barely speaking to each other, and it kind of unpacks what happened between them, and it is a lot about like grief and about art and about being yourself, and I think it covers a lot of similar themes to The Midnight Library and the People We Meet on Vacation, and has a similar like kind of like heart-centered message. Next up we have Pride and Prejudice and Song of Achilles. What a weird little matchup. But it like makes sense. It's like weird, but also makes sense. This gives me like classics vibes. You like modern classics. I think Madeline Miller's other book, Circe, would be a good recommendation for you. I loved Circe. We have Verity by Colleen Hoover and Normal People by Sally Rooney. Where is the overlap here? I like both of these books, but like, where is the overlap? Because like Verity is enjoyable. Verity is written like very readably. Like the writing styles are incredibly different. This one is like very plot focused. This one is like very character focused. This one is like compulsively readable. This one doesn't have quotation marks in it. They're both very good. This one is about a romance. This one I guess has a romance in it sort of, but it's like mostly a thriller. Like I'm trying to think of like where the overlap would be. You know what? I think the overlap is My Dark Vanessa by Kate Elizabeth Russell. This book is heavy. Definitely look up triggers, but it is gorgeous. It's stunningly written. Gives me Normal People vibes in that sense, but I think it is a little bit darker in tone. It follows this girl who has a relationship with her teacher, and it follows her as a 15-year-old actually like engaged in this relationship, this inappropriate relationship, and also as a 30-year-old woman reflecting back on this relationship, and you kind of get to see the trauma that this had on her life, and it is gorgeously written, but like incredibly interesting and like very, very readable as well, which I think Verity like does readability like. This one is for all the sad girls out there. My Year of Rest and Relaxation by Tessa Moshfegh and Addie LaRue. So this is about girlies. This is so funny because these books are like opposite in they're like complete opposites in one way. Like My Year of Rest and Relaxation is about a girl who like is trying to sleep through life because like she's kind of sick of it, and Addie LaRue is about a girl who like loves life so much that she like is gonna live it forever. Like they're opposites, but I also like think thematically incredibly similar. I also think the writing of both of these is really interesting and good. I think Emily Austen's Everyone in This Room Will Someday Be Dead might be a good overlap. This one is about a girl who accidentally winds up as a secretary in a Catholic church, and she like is a atheist lesbian with like really bad hypochondria and like some severe anxiety issues, and like very is not mentally well. But it is also like a sweet heartwarming book about her kind of it gives unpacking kind of like the sweetness of people, and it like thematically feels like it fits in very well with these two books. So that's my recommendation for those. Throne of Glass and Wuthering Heights. I actually think this makes a lot of sense. I think that there's a level of like angst and tension and like fascinating, like Heathcliff and Arabin, similar, just assholes. But I think also we have like really like claw your guts out romance. I think Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo is like gorgeous. I'm excited. The second book comes out very soon, but it is about a girl who can see ghosts, and she's in charge of all these secret societies at Yale that have like dark magic powers. It is like dark and kind of like grungy, like Wuthering Heights is, I think, in many respects, and has like, and Throne of Glass sometimes too, and has like a really interesting, complex world. So I think you would like that one. Oh, finally, this is the first time we've seen her. ACOTAR and Verity. So for me, this duo is just like compulsively readable. Like I think Colleen Hoover is one of like just truly mastered, just like incredibly readable books. Her writing reminds me a lot of Stephen King in that way, in that the storytelling is just like so like when I start a Colleen Hoover book, like that's all I'm gonna be doing is just sitting there reading. She does twists so well, and she does writing that is just like so accessibly readable and delightful. I would actually recommend a Stephen King. I loved recently The Institute by Stephen King. This book, one, gives me, I know this is not what we're like referring it to, but it gives me like Maximum Ride vibes, the like bird children books that you may have read when you were in high school. But it is about these children who have like telepathic powers, and they're at this place called The Institute, in which they're like locked up, and it is about their experience there. Again, like super readable, engaging plots like both Verity and ACOTAR. I think you would love it. I like him recommending this book to everyone because I don't think it got enough hype, and I think a lot of people would really enjoy it. I think a lot of people who aren't classically Stephen King readers would really enjoy it because it's not horror. This is a good one. This is one I haven't seen yet. So this is from Lukov with Love, which is my favorite Mariana Zapata, and The People We Meet on Vacation. These are just like delightful, delicious romance books. You just have like good taste in romance. So if you have good taste in romance, some of my favorite romance books, I'm just going to assume you have the same taste as me if these are two of your favorites. So I'm going to give you some of my favorites. I'm actually going to recommend some of Emily Henry's other stuff. I think her YA stuff gets really overlooked. I loved The Love That Split the World, and I loved A Million Junes. Both of those are my two favorite of her YA books. I think you'd really enjoy those. And I mean like all the classics. I also am like a Mariana Zapata girl. Luna and the Lion is another one of my favorite Mariana Zapata. Wall of Winnipeg is a classic. All Roads Lead Here is super good. I mean, I assume you've read Beach Read. If you haven't read Beach Read, like literally throw your computer out the window and go get it right now. You can borrow it from me. Come over to my house. I'll let you borrow my copy. And The Brown Sisters, which I've recommended like 12 times in this video. That's the video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope this was like helpful in some way. I hope these are good book recommendations. They help you. If you have a book, if you want me to triangulate your book recommendations, leave two of your favorite books down below and I'll tell you what I would recommend. I love recommending good books. I think I'm pretty good at it. So, not to brag. I will talk to you later. Have a good one. Bye.